Welcome to the show that barnyard animals gravitate to. It's the Flying Pigskin Show, all about your Cincinnati Bengals. Moving on to Carolina.
You okay?
Moving on to Carolina.
What's with the hoodie?
We're moving on to Carolina.
Well, it was a tough loss. It's funny, which I've been getting lit up on the Twitter, whatever,
We're moving on to
social
Carolina.
media today. It's a road loss to a Hall of Fame quarterback after a 3-0 start.
You know, by the way, this was an homage to Bill Belichick. I just want to let you know, in case there was any wonder.
It's the first thought that came to my mind.
Yeah. Okay, I never put anything on my hair anyway except gel. The fact of the matter is you're old enough to remember 1988. They're cruising to the Super Bowl and
Correct.
everything. And they go to New England, I think,
And
after
lost.
6, and they lost. Well, it happens.
The difference is that New England football team was bad.
Yeah.
This New England football team is still, the question is out. At least this football team, New England version, has Bill Belichick and Tom Brady.
Let me remind you, you're listening to the Flying Pigskin and only on WCPO.com. You can download our WCPO app. You got one of those things on that?
I do. It's on my phone.
Smartphone,
Yes,
yeah?
yes.
And you can listen to the Flying Pigskin Show in your car. How about that?
In fact, we just sent a push alert saying, tune into.
I love that.
There you have it.
And then, of course, we stream live every Monday here at 7 a.m. on WCPO.com. Here's the disturbing trend I picked. Chris Silva, our lovely co-host for this show. Vontaze Burfict went out hurt with a concussion a couple of weeks ago. 326 yards for Tennessee, 505 yards last night for New England. 149 of those Tennessee yards rushing yards, 220 last night rushing yards for New England. They missed Burfict, I think.
There's no doubt about it. In a lot of different ways, he is that nastiness on that defense that keeps him going. He's the defensive leader, and he's an All-Pro.
Right. And I just think.
See who their leading tackler was, by the way. Go ahead.
Last night?
Yeah.
I can tell you right here. Last night, I thought that there was just, like the defense couldn't get off the field. Leading tackle for the Bengals last night was George Iloka with 9. Ray Maluga had 9. So, I mean, but the problem is they couldn't get off the field last night on third down. New England was 6 of 16 third downs. Cincinnati 0 of 7. That's not good. Not good.
It's not. It's disappointing for a couple of things. One is you're coming off a bye week. You'd hope you play a little bit more inspired than that.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I took away from last night's game is that New England responded, right?
Yes.
They took it personally.
Mm-hmm.
Will this Bengals team take it personally and act professional and be that championship caliber type of team? I mean, Tom Brady played with a chip on his shoulder last night.
Carolina coming up next week should not be that big a deal. But in 2 weeks, they got to go to Indianapolis, which ought to be an interesting game. And that could be the game where you say, okay, all of this stuff, you know, that happened at New England was just an anomaly. It was one game. But the line of the night was from Al Michaels. Chris Collinsworth said, this team will be fine. Don't worry about it. When everybody gets healthy, they'll be fine. And then Michael says, as long as they play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, you get under the lights, this team wilts. It's unbelievable.
Papo saying this morning on Good Morning Tri-State, I believe now 10 primetime Sunday night games. They've won one of them.
Yeah,
they're 1-9 in their last.
And I think in prime time overall, they're like 10 and 37 or 10 and 38 or something like that. They're just horrible under the lights historically. But again, you know, it's one game. You win 10, you're in the playoffs. You're in the playoffs than anything.
It's one game, Matty, and it's also a road loss.
It's a playoff type atmosphere, and
it was.
That's where we do not have the credentials.
But a road loss in the NFL happens, especially to a Hall of Fame
exactly.
coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback.
But this is exactly how it's been. This just solidified or reinforced every fear or apprehension the Bengals fans have. This is exactly what we do. This is exactly what it is.
Right. Do you have a hoodie on, by the way? Are you
I
paying
do. Here,
homage to Bill Belichick?
I asked
go.
Matty
Yes.
today, I said,
On to Carolina.
how many
On to Carolina.
retro Bengal outfits does Matt have?
I know, yeah.
I don't think I've bought any this century. I did just buy the Munoz thing I had. That was new. But yeah, most of them are very old.
I'm expecting to see a Brian Blado's jersey.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Introduce your cast of characters back there so everybody knows who's back there, because oftentimes people are in and out of the show, they're not sure who's back there with you. So please, just so we have names with faces.
This is Mike Stratman.
Yes.
On the field every Sunday at Paul Brown
Who
Stadium.
is optimistic? Mikey, how are you feeling after this loss?
Not, I feel they'll be all
The
right.
Kool-Aid is a little sour today.
You know, it's like you said, Chris. It's like it's one loss. It was a tough game, primetime game. Patriots, I don't know if it mattered who was going in there last night. You know, the Boston media gave Brady and Belichick hell all week, so I think
You can't back them into a corner.
No, you can't.
That was the
back them into a
worst. That
corner.
was the worst thing that could have happened. Is them losing
Chiefs
like
were
that.
the worst thing that
I was
happened
watching
there.
Mike and Mike last week, and they were just like, "Is the dynasty over?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, stop saying that."
Yeah.
Brady's washed up.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Can I go back to, Matty, your email, this production crew email yesterday?
Oh,
You know,
there
I
you
hope
go.
that you
How about
blew
that?
up.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
This is Matt's last paragraph. If the Bengals lose right now, they don't have a good one, blah, blah, blah. If it's a big if, then they have to deal with the Ravens in the coming week, the tough game against the Colts, off of easy street. Matty, it's never easy street in the NFL, especially, I mean,
I understand, but
It's
that was
never easy street.
but that's what
They can
what
very
everybody was
easily go
saying is that
3
we were
and 3 and
we're
still
the
be
class
fine.
we were the class of the AFC. It was going to be us in Denver at the end of the year, and now but this is just like last week for the Patriots after they got crushed by the Chiefs. I mean, you're right.
I don't
it
think
happens.
it's quite that dire.
Well, I'm just saying this is the mood that's going to be in town where you think you're good and then you get crushed and then you don't think you're good anymore.
The first 2 passes Brady throws last night cover 59 yards.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
wide open receivers.
I know. So it's like his first pass is a 20-yarder to LaFell. Then he comes back 3 plays later, 30 yards to Tim Wright. And that was it.
But it had the feeling, right?
Oh, my
It had the
gosh.
feeling you were getting punched in the mouth.
Yep.
And it was like, are they going to be able to get off the canvas in this one? And they could not.
So we have a poll question this morning that
Let's
we
hear it.
want to throw out. Who is most responsible for this loss last night? Was it the offense, the defense, special teams, coaching, the Patriots, or the big stage? Many, many options
Probably
up
yes
here.
to all.
Yes,
And all of the
absolutely.
above.
And we can vote on this on WCPO.com. You could vote on it too if you'd like. Chris and I are going to vote. But
What is your vote, by the
My
way?
vote on last night was the defense. It was horrific.
Yeah.
You give up 505 yards to any team, you're not going to win. You give up half that amount, most times you're not going to win.
They get my vote as well,
I mean,
for the record.
it was.
But it was so many things. I mean, they don't score as many points if we can get a first down.
The problem
I mean,
with
it's just
Yeah.
Yeah, keep
which
Brady
one's
off the
first.
field.
Did it look
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
the defense was even ready? I mean, it's like the Patriots hurried them
Well,
up,
that's-
and they weren't ready at all. The guys are standing up.
There was a couple of quick snaps
early.
early on, you're correct.
Yeah, I
That's-
think right off the bat, they just weren't ready and got smacked.
And duly noted by
you
Chris
know?
Collinsworth,
Right.
this is a very common practice by Tom
And I
Brady.
did not finish
How are you
my
not prepared for
introductions.
that?
I apologize.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
okay.
did not.
This is Brian off of the injured reserve.
Bring back Libby.
He's a
She's
little
better
vain.
looking.
He had a
Clavicle, right?
yeah. His arm was
Oh.
taped up when he walked in here today. But for the show,
Did you
he's-
break
he's-
it?
I broke my collarbone, yes.
How?
I wrecked my moped.
Oh, moped.
Well, that's your first mistake.
Come
is
up with a
driving
better
one of
story.
those things. No,
Be careful on those things.
but you know what? I mean, you give up 505 yards. Your first downs are 30 to 17. I mean, it's just you can't win with those stats. And I don't know if it's Paul Gunther, and because he seemed pretty smart the first 2 weeks, or if it's like we said, it's perfect. I can't believe it's one player that's causing that. But honestly, it's like night and day what this team was defensively the first 2 weeks to what it is now.
And if you want to continue with the evaluation of the offense tries to respond on that opening drive, only to go what I know. I was waiting for Matty to kick in here. Can't get it into the end zone. Settle for a
Oh, this-
mile-long field goal that ends up short.
Yeah, and
So,
it's not all Andy Dalton. If McCoy was here, he would say it was. But the quarterbacks get too much credit and too much blame. But that last night was the epitome of everything that everybody's afraid of. It's just like with the Reds, and it's just like with the Bengals. And until one of them does something in the playoffs, we're going to still think that's always going to happen in the big stage. But
I tweeted this out.
we should bring in our first guest of today, Bengals all-time leading scorer Jim Breach. Jim, how are you doing this morning? Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Jim, it's one game, right? I mean, you guys in '88 went up to New England. I think you lost up there. It was a bad Patriots team.
No.
Like it's one game, right? It's one game, right?
Yes. Yes, it is. Yes. Just
Yeah.
relax.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one game. I mean, look at what happened with New England last week.
Right.
They get blown out 41-14. They turn around with this game, and I don't think anybody could have beaten New England last night. I think they were just so prepared. They were so chopping at the bit. I mean, they've been put down. Tom Brady's out. Do we need to play Garoppolo? I mean, there's all these things going on. As Bill Belichick lost his touch. I think they went to a buzzsaw.
But Jim, I do think that it was kind of a lesson learned in how you see. I don't want to say the Patriots are a championship team, but a championship quarterback and head coach responds after a week of adversity. They came out on a mission, chip on their shoulder, not to be denied. And in the hope is that the Bengals learn that, and this week did the exact same thing.
I would agree. That you think about it. I mean, they're thought of as one of the Super Bowl contending teams, and this right steps up at the other tight end, and all of a sudden that made a huge difference running down those seams last night with Gronkowski on one side and right on the other. And to your point earlier, as I was coming on, the Bengals on those first drives did not seem to be ready. They were playing very quickly, and the Bengals were kind of struggling to get prepared and be at the line, and there were a lot of things going on. And the game really settled down after it was 14-0. But unfortunately, that was quite a bit.
It seemed to me, Jimmy, conversely, that the Bengal offense was waiting so long to snap the ball. I think Collinsworth mentioned this. They're waiting so long to snap the ball. The closer you get to 0 on that play clock, the defense knows you got to snap it eventually, or you're going to get a delay of game. And it played right into their defense's hands. It almost looked like, to me, like the Bengals were playing at one speed and had been playing at that speed for 4 weeks, and the Patriots were playing at warp speed. The Patriots just seemed to dictate the speed of this game, and I think the Bengals weren't prepared for it.
Yeah, you're right. They dictated the tempo. It's kind of interesting because all they talked about in training camp was playing fast.
Yeah.
Playing fast, and obviously that wasn't the case. Even when they were not huddling, they still struggled to get the ball. I'm not sure if there's some things that New England was doing defensively that they kept playing different things out where they were disguising defenses. I'm not sure. However, there's one thing I'm concerned about is that run defense that the Bengals have. They have really not, even in the games they've won, they haven't really defended the rush particularly well. And just because they've gotten ahead in the previous games, you got to get some third downs. And the Bengals didn't complete the third down the whole game.
Well,
if you get stay on the field, the other team's going to get the ball, and obviously New England was able to stay on the field.
Well, Tennessee 149 on the ground last night. New England 220 on the ground. The common thread there for the second half, or almost for 3/4 of the Tennessee game, and last night is there's no Vontaze Burfict. And I'm just wondering, can one player make that much of a difference where you go from under 100 the first two to over 200 for the last game? Can one guy make that much difference?
I don't know, but if you remember in the Baltimore game in the second half, Baltimore ran the ball extremely well. So, to a certain extent, I guess that he can make that a little bit of a difference, but I don't think he makes that much difference.
And he was in and out of both those games with the injury.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's a concern. But you give up 500 yards on total offense, you can't convert a third down. I'm chalking up like you are. It's one game against a team that was backed into a corner, that played miserably, and everybody was, is Brady dead? Is Belichick going to get fired and all that? I think it's one game. I really do, and I know there are a lot of Bengal fans jumping off the bandwagon today. But I mean, they're literally spraining ankles jumping off the bandwagon today.
I agree with you. Unfortunately, that's being a fan, right? I mean, we have those choices in life to make, and some of them might mean getting off the bandwagon. But hopefully they'll scramble back on here in the next few weeks if they can get it straightened out. But yeah, it was pretty ugly. That was, I don't know what it is. What is it about prime time?
I know.
It's unbelievable.
But I don't know. There's a lot of theories on this. The one theory is Marvin gets them so psyched that they get psyched out. Another theory is that they're younger players, and younger players want to do things in prime time because everybody's watching. I don't subscribe to either one of those theories, and I don't think history is all that important in sport, particularly professional sport, because rosters are fluid and they change. But it's just amazing how a team can be that way one way at 1 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon and be a completely different team at 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. You played the game. Is there that much of a difference biologically, biorhythmically, psychologically? Is there that much of a difference?
No, not really. Well, it's a longer day, but they do things during the day that kind of offset that. I mean, they might have an extra meeting or do something that kind of gives you, so you don't feel like you're just sitting around for 8 hours or something. But, and again, the Bengals have played a number of bigger games here in the last 2 years, but for whatever it is, I mean, they struggled in the playoffs, and that's usually a 1 o'clock start.
Jim, you said the last time that you were on our show that you think that this team thinks they can win. Do you think that they can have the kind of mental turnaround the same way that the Patriots do. I mean, the Patriots have been doing it for so long that people just take it for granted, and it just happens. And last week, they thought that they were over and done with, and they turned it around like it was nothing. Do you think this team has that kind of character, or I don't know? Maybe you're not there every day, and maybe you can't tell. But that's what everybody who's a fan is looking to see, is that the character that they're going to be angry about this and take it and turn it around. And it starts with the coaching staff all the way down. I think the Patriots turnaround starts with Belichick and how he treats them in the meetings and so on. Do you think this team can do that?
Absolutely. Yeah, I really believe they're a mature football team who ran into a buzzsaw. There's some things they have to correct. On the defensive side, I think they're, it's all about, and I think Brady talked about it, just do your job. Do what you're supposed to do in that particular play. And I think sometimes, to allude to what Ken was saying, is that these guys maybe get up in the bed a little bit too much, and they have issues maybe getting out of their lanes and not doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And you get back to it next week, do what you're supposed to do. Because a game like this kind of makes you sit up and think, right? And look at what's happening and get back to doing your job, and you do it correctly. And the one thing that I've noticed, even with Mike Zimmer at defense, the defense usually gets better as the season goes on. The first, say, 3-4 games, they were okay, and then as the season progresses, they get better. And I think that guys just more comfortable with doing what they're supposed to do, getting in the right spot, and those linebackers, to run around and make tackles. They're getting beat on the outside. You should not, in the NFL, you should not be able to run around the corner. And they did that several times last night.
Yeah,
so
for big gains. Yeah.
You're not supposed to get beat around the corner, but another thing that I noticed that a lot of teams have gone to, and this team has gone to it as well, is these offenses with two tight ends. I mean, when Eifert is healthy, obviously this offense is a lot better than what it is right now. But what I'm looking at last night is okay, we lost Hernandez, he's in jail or whatever, go out and get Tim Wright, and all of a sudden, you don't have guys. I mean, Edelman's a nice receiver. He's a hard-working guy. I mean, I like his attitude. But you put those two big telephone poles on either side of that line of scrimmage, and you just physically beat guys over the middle. I mean, Gronkowski had some drops, but Jim, Leon Hall, LaFleur, whoever that, 59 for Cincinnati. I forget his name. How do you pronounce his name?
Lemieux.
Yeah, Lemieux. Yeah, the French guy. It's like they were bouncing. They're bouncing off Gronkowski. They're bouncing off Wright. You got two tight ends like that in the NFL with a guy like Brady throwing. That's very difficult to defend.
It is, and obviously when the Bengals drafted Eifert, that was the whole idea that they would have that second tight end. I just wonder sometimes. It almost seems as though Gresham is the guy that everybody's forgotten about. I mean, he drops one pass in the end zone. That was a great throw.
Yeah.
You really haven't seen him much this year. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I think he had a throw. He got one pass for a couple of yards.
Yeah.
They're not using him much, and I don't know if it's a lack of confidence because he does seem to have a drop, and then he'll make a spectacular catch. You don't exactly know what you're getting from play to play when it comes to pass catching. And then, they don't have the other guy. They don't have Eifert there right now. If you remember, that first game, Eifert was the guy who was just killing it.
Right.
And then he dislocates that elbow, and, practice he kills it all the time. So if he can stay healthy, they could be that two tight end dynamo and take some of the pressure off A.J. Green and so forth.
Yeah.
But right now they don't have that, so they got to make it up otherwise.
Jimmy, good talking to you, my friend. Have a great Monday.
Thanks. You do the same. See you guys.
Jim Breach, Bengals all-time leading scorer.
Perhaps another point that you can make, not to overstate, is in primetime coverage, typically those matchups are marquee. They're playing top-flight competition most of the time in that, unless you get a team on a down year.
It's funny. Rivas goes out hurt last night, and all of a sudden, they find Green. They were.
I love that matchup early on.
I know.
I was somewhat surprised by that matchup a little bit.
I know.
Especially in the first couple of drives.
And then he comes back, and he's basically playing on a leg and a half, and he's still terrific.
Yeah, he is.
It really is when you look at that. And he's done that before, a couple of those longer than that, 2009 or whenever they went to the playoffs, and he was on Ocho Cinco. He was playing for the Jets. It was a really cold night.
Change my name back and all that.
Yeah, really cold night here, and and the Bengals didn't have to win. shuts him down. They come back the next week, shuts him down again. I mean, he's just a terrific talent, unbelievable talent.
Ken, we have a new member of today's, or a fill-in staff, take 5. Tom Jordan, P.J. O'Keefe, who runs WCPO.com, is getting married this week.
Really?
Or maybe he just got married. He's got married. He's on his honeymoon, yes.
Yeah.
Tom's going to join us with a little statistical
He couldn't
insight.
call in from the honeymoon?
Well, he said he might Skype in, but it depended on if his plane was delayed or something. I said, PJ, you're good enough on a bad foot. Don't call.
Right. His wife wanted to call in. That's how bad that thing's going.
Okay, Tom, you got something for us?
Well, a couple of things to note. This continual discussion about the Patriots' magic after they lose games. Since the beginning of the 2003 season, the Patriots are now 36-4 in regular season games following a loss.
Wow.
That's since Mr. Belichick's arrival.
What are
and
they
have
32 or 34 wins against the AFC opponents at home.
32, I think 38 and 9, I think, is the record against 32 and 14, I think, against the AFC. One more statistic, talking about the tight ends, and it seems like Gronkowski caught more than this, but between Gronkowski and Wright, the tight ends, they had 11 receptions for 185 yards. But it looks like Gronkowski caught more than that. And if I remember the last time the Bengals played the Patriots and they beat them here, Gronkowski was injured.
Yeah.
So it shows the impact that he makes.
And he was targeted 11 times last
11
time.
times? Mm-hmm. You know, the thing about Gronk, that was the same draft class as Gresham. Gresham was the first tight end taken in that draft class, and then I think Gronkowski was like the third tight end taken that year.
Same draft class. Oh, yeah, because Gresham was a high pick.
Yeah. First round pick, absolutely. Well, you know, Chris, one of the things that you revel at,
I do,
and that you look forward to on Mondays are the Mr. Satin segments. Mr. Satin, of course, we found Mr. Satin. A little background: we had found Mr. Satin wandering aimlessly on the streets of Cincinnati, down around 5th and Central, and we said, "Who are you, and what are you all about?" And he said, "All I want is a microphone and a camera. Just give me a chance." And that's what we've done here on WCPO.com. We've given Mr. Satin a chance. Here's his latest effort on the Flying Pigskin Show.
Hey, what's happening? This is Mr. Satin for the Flying Pigskin. There's been a lot of talk lately about the Devin Steele jersey and all the money proceeds going toward cancer research. Well, you know what? Not everybody can get their hands on a Devin Steele jersey. So we want to know, what jersey are you rocking down on game day? So I gotta ask you, rocking the 84 jersey.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Bushman Zadi, he's not around anymore.
No.
What's happening here?
It was
What's going on?
supposed to be Gresham, and I sharpied
Right,
it on there,
right.
and I washed it, and I didn't know Sharpie came off the washer, so...
You always taking the doggy out to the Bengals game?
Well, you know, he's down here. This is called tailgating.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
He's
yeah,
here
yeah,
for
yeah.
that.
Yes.
Tailgating for God.
We got an old school Rudy jersey on, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Tell
sir.
me about it. Why you got the Rudy jersey?
You know, this is my brother, you know. He had, you know, we Bengals fans died, and he gone.
That's
So
right,
I'm
that's
gonna rep
right.
my brother. He gone. Rest in peace, big bro.
Still representing.
Oh, wait. Old
love
school
it.
ain't nothing.
I love it.
As long as Bengals is me.
Tell me about this jersey. What's going on here?
My kids got this for me for Christmas. Crumrye was one of my favorite people.
Oh, yeah, Crumrye. That's right.
If he hadn't broke his leg that year, we'd
Super
won
Bowl.
everything.
Yeah. We got the Shake and Blake, the Jeff Blake jersey, right? This is a throwback. You didn't make this weekend, I could tell.
No, I've had this jersey a while.
How'd you get this jersey?
I bought it off eBay.
What's the price on a Jeff Blake Shake and Blake jersey going these days?
$25, including shipment.
Oh! All right, so we're rocking the Jeff Blake jersey, right?
Right.
I gotta ask, where'd you find that at?
This, I've had this since 6th grade.
You're kidding me.
I'm not kidding you.
So this is not an eBay find?
Nope.
Have you seen how much they're going on for eBay? You can make some money off this jersey.
Oh, really?
Yeah, about $19.95.
Oh, nice.
So you're still a true Jeff Blake fan?
Shake and Blake, I always
Shake and
loved
Blake.
Yep.
Favorite player?
Yep.
Oh, man.
The aforementioned Mr. Satin joins us. Satin, good to see you.
What just happened? 2 Blake jerseys, no Dalton?
Zero Daltons.
You know,
No, there were Daltons on there, but you know we were searching out these jerseys.
No
that
David
we just,
Klinglers?
Well,
No Scott Mitchells?
Jay Schrader.
They were absent.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
But Santa Claus was good with the Crumrye jersey. That was
Yeah.
strong.
Awesome.
Strong. And the Blake jersey
great.
strong. These people walking around with Hushman Zada jerseys and
Yeah.
Rudy John. It's like this is my personal theory that you should, if you're wearing a jersey of a player that has been gone 10 years or less, you need to get another jersey. You really
it's
do.
not at least in the team's ring of honor or something.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that's a good
Which
point.
we don't have.
If you're right, if you're wearing a jersey from 10 years or more that they've been gone, like Jeff Blake, like Tim Crumry, you know, like any of those guys, you know, Ty Parton. There's a name.
Right.
Any of those guys, you can. That's okay. Jeff Query, but you can't. But there's the line of demarcation is 10 years. If you're wearing a jersey of a guy that's been gone less than 10 years, you're cheap. Buy a new jersey.
I even think like the next year, if the guy's gone, like just put it down.
Right.
Let's rest that thing.
How about the chick with the duct tape?
I mean, there's no excuse for that. I mean, we all know no excuse. I mean, there's plenty of great players. You know,
that's a very common thing in Bengal land. There's so many guys that get drafted, and maybe this is this way on every team, but there's so many guys that were good or thought they were going to be good, and then, you know, a year into it, it's like, what are you going to do with this thing? You just spent $120 on.
Is that what they cost? $120?
If you get a real one, it's over $100, I think. Yeah, a real one.
Like the kind they wear in a game.
Right.
Speaking of that, though, last night, perhaps one of the most touching moments we've seen in the NFL all year was what the Patriots did with Devin Still's jersey.
Right. I thought that was the highlight of the night, to be honest with you. I mean, certainly for Bengal fans it was, but I just think as a football fan, I thought that was the highlight of the night.
That was totally cool. I mean, you know, there's a lot of effort gone into that, and it shows. It's great that Cincinnati actually did that, and the Brown family kind of came together helping out, and the Patriots as well. So.
Bob Kraft giving $25K.
You know,
Cincinnati Children's.
Here are the pictures of the cheerleaders from New England in
from
third
photographer
quarter.
Mark Slaughter.
Yeah.
His contribution from his bed.
He always does that. Gets the full story on game day. They wore the Devin Still jersey, and then they played a video tribute to Leah and Devin on the Jumbotron. Yeah. We showed a picture this morning on Good Morning Tri-State of Devin just tearing up. I don't know how you don't get emotional on that.
I know.
And, you know, I guess it was a blowout at that point.
You know,
anyway,
Chris, that's just pure class on that organization's part. And I don't know.
He was crying. They had a picture of him. He actually teared up.
I think if you've won Super Bowls, and they have in New England, and you have that gravitas, I think you can do things that you can't do if you are a team that just, you know, isn't.
So you're saying it doesn't mean as much from a team?
Yeah, but I mean, here's a team that's won Super Bowls, and they do something like that. And it wasn't staged. Everybody knew they were going to do it. It wasn't like some surprise. Everybody knew that Kraft had bought the jerseys and all that. And they put these things on. It's like, I don't know how anybody couldn't have been touched by that. It was what a class move. And I don't know too many other organizations that would have done that besides them.
Yeah, it was authentic, too. I mean, it wasn't forced or anything like that. And they didn't have to do that, and they did. And that shows class.
And they did it when the whole organization was under duress all week. Right. You know, I mean, it's, you know, they were under pressure in all kinds of situations. And
you know, Maddie, when you said that we showed the picture this morning, Good Morning Tri-State, and obviously it was on the game broadcast of Devin crying. He had Leah Strong right across his eye black, so kind of a tribute back to the city as well. It went through Boston strong.
I don't know how any parent couldn't identify with that, but yeah, that was pretty strong. And somebody said that they've topped over. I mean, they've gone over $100,000 just here in Cincinnati alone in jersey sales. I heard that last week.
It's been more than $1 million total raised.
But I heard it was over $100,000 just in Cincinnati alone, which is pretty darn huge, you know.
Yeah, I think the lesson too is put those old Hushman Zada jerseys down.
Get yourself a
put
75.
the Blakes down, and let's get the 75 jersey, right? I mean, come on.
Sure.
Yeah. You know what she's going to do next? She's going to duct tape the number and then right over top of it.
Right.
She's going to throw it out there.
You know, but I thought that was pretty cool. I think, and Bob Kraft giving $25K. Again, this is somebody that has no dog in the fight. I mean, he lost his wife to cancer a couple of years ago, but I mean, he's not from here. He doesn't have a child of that age anymore. But I mean, for somebody to do something like that, I think it's just beyond wonderful.
Well, it's a story that's captivated the nation at this point.
Let's bring in, because I'm interested as to how this whole thing is playing out this morning in the great New England area. Let's bring in former NFL quarterback, now working for 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston. Scott Zolak joins us here on the Flying Pigskin Show. Scott, thank you for joining us. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on. Flying Pigskin. Nothing better than that this time of year.
Let's just bring folks up to date. You played collegiately at Maryland, correct?
Yeah, I heard you talking about the jerseys there. You never mentioned Boomer Esiason. That's my boy.
I know. Were you a contemporary of Boomer, or did you come along after him?
I Bowman was there. He graduated class of '84, and then it was Frank Wright, Big Gelbaugh, then O'Donnell, and then I followed those guys up after that. I got out of there in the early '90s.
But I have to say, Ken, you come from a long lineage of schools where there are great quarterbacks. Didn't you go to the same high school that Joe Montana went to?
That's correct, yeah. Dad coached me, and I was a water boy at the time, 7 years old at the time. Back when
I read a story that he gave you a football, and you always rubbed that football for luck.
I rub a lot of things for good luck, and football back in the day, that helped to get you going. Yeah, it was kind of superstitious, but I think all athletes do something right one way and it works. Keep doing it every week.
Scott, last week I got the feeling that there were going to be like multiple services held for the Patriots. One for Brady, one for Belichick. Everybody was upset. The Red Sox had a terrible go of it this year. I mean, Boston had to be in complete, this cloud hanging over it. What? I mean, in the wake of last night, I know we're very early after the game. Are there people feeling foolish up there about the way they were throwing dirt on Brady and Belichick?
I think the unfair criticism was directed towards Brady. But for the most part, I mean, they didn't block it up front. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect him. They couldn't stop anybody. So, I mean, most of that criticism was warranted. But I think the big thing about the National Football League, and you're going to go through it for a week there, that, the Bengals can't win in the big spot, in the big game. And you got to put that stuff behind you and get to the next week. And the bar's set pretty high here. We've been to divisional games consistently at the AFC championships, 3 years in a row, back to back. Brady, eight AFC championship games in his 13-year career. So, I mean, anything less than that, it's, people get after it pretty good here. But I think that's the competitive part of it that drives this fan base, and it's going to be part of it.
Scott, one of the things that we talked about is lesson learned that New England really modeled the way from the standpoint of playing with a chip on the shoulder and really responding like a champion should after a week of adversity. Your thoughts on that and how they did do just that?
I just think it's external noise, and it's all you need is a group of 53 guys to find one guy that doubts them. And this week, Dilfer, Young saying that the team's weak and they don't draft well anymore, so it's a direct shot at the organization, and they do it about as good as anybody, taking that one clip, that one sound bite, and spinning it and running it. And not that it was an unfair criticism. I mean, the team wasn't playing well at the time, and it's not a great division, but it's a competitive division, and you guys see it there in the North. You're fighting Pittsburgh, fighting Baltimore, and I think your team's got to play as an edge too, and it'll find something to motivate you each and every week. Because it's in the National Football League, you guys see games every day. It's a crazy league. Sometimes you think this team's going to be good, and next thing you know, they go out and whack somebody the next week. It's hard to be consistent at this level.
I thought last night that New England dictated the tempo. I don't think Cincinnati was ready for it. I think New England came out, they were going to move it, and at times it almost appeared like it was not just purposeful with the way they were trying to control the tempo of the game, but they also figured out early that Cincinnati wasn't ready to handle that. Could you sense that?
Yeah, and I think they changed things up on the offensive side of it. They upped the tempo, as you said, but football's a game of momentum. We were at the other end of that, and paid for it dearly out in Kansas City, where that thing gets going one way, and it's hard to stop once it becomes one-dimensional. And once you get out in front, you can turn a team one-dimensional. You can kind of lay your ears back. And granted, they only sacked Dalton once, but there was some pretty good pressure, really, really good coverage by Revis on A.J. Green.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the story of that game. But I heard you guys talking earlier too. Go ahead.
This is Matt, the producer. Scott, Dalton. You only sacked him once. He hadn't been sacked all year.
Yeah, I know.
So I mean, you did something three other teams couldn't do.
Yeah, I mean, Manning's like that too. Some of that offense is based on getting the ball out quick and putting a good pocket in front of him, and you worry so much about covering guys, and you got a pretty good running combo, of Phil and Bernard there that you've got to account for everything. So Patriots did a good job, man. That's a good bounce back for them after Kansas City.
Revis is a special talent. He went out hurt, and that's when Dalton and Green started to do a little bit of damage. Did they, I don't want to say expose, but the coverage that New England had on Green last night, was that something you think that could haunt the Bengals going forward, or was that just Revis being an exceptional cornerback?
Revis Island, man. That's what you pay a guy $13 million for. I don't think you're going to face many $13 million corners throughout the year. But it's two good guys making plays. I know AJ was fighting through it, and you're pushing off the top of the route. They were going back and forth pretty good. And nothing special. It's just basic man-to-man coverage with no help over the top. And, I mean, he got his catches. But if you could hold that guy, really good elite receivers, to 6 catches for 80 yards or less, I think you did your job.
Scott Zolak joins us. What time are you guys on up there in Boston, Scott?
On at 10, man. Got in about 3 last night.
Ooh.
No sleep here. We don't need sleep.
Ooh.
And so, real quick on the Devin Still thing, I heard you talking about it. Was a hell of a moment here. You know, they ran the big story on the Jumbotron, and that's nothing that was planned that, okay, hey, if we're ahead, we're going to go with this. Pretty well thought out thing. And, just a great moment because it's a great story, and we've talked about it. I've tried to talk about it here. I think there's been a lot of bad things talked about in the National Football League for 3 weeks. That story kind of, I don't want to say it's flown under the radar, but should have gotten a heck of a lot more attention than what it has.
I don't think many organizations could do what New England did last night. You have gravitas because you've won Super Bowls. I'd like to think everybody would embrace this story, but we know in reality that a lot of owners are so aloof they probably would not. I just thought because Kraft lost his wife a couple of years ago, and then you compound that, it's a child and it's a story that's been embraced universally. I get all of that, but I just sense that there's just something special about that organization that, hey, you know what, we can do this. We're bigger than a game. We can embrace the moment. And I just don't, I think the majority of teams in the NFL just wouldn't have done something like that last night.
It's tough to really analyze that, but I think, you know, to your point, I think the human element of it, you know, we get so caught up in the sport and, you know, the franchise, and the business model, and, you know, it's just a corporation. But I think every fan relates to that. Every person at some point, I think, has had, you know, if you haven't, you know, God bless you, you know, you had been touched or, you know, had to deal with cancer at some point in their life, some member or some friend of the family, and it was just a great moment. And the National Football League, for a lot of criticism that they get, they can do some right things, and they did one last night.
Yeah, class move.
Cincinnati okay the rest of the year, you think, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, you're fine. I just think, you know, you're big. You're an athletic team, and that's one thing I noticed, that they're not really big. You know, you saw the Raiders come in here. You know, teams like the Giants, Dallas, and even the Redskins. You know, they're just physically big guys. I think you guys are more athletic, and you got guys that can run. And I like that your team does play as an edge, because I think you do need to when you play teams like Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You know, twice a year, you got to hit back, and you got to punch back in the mouth, and they do, and you'll be fine. You know, you just be competitive in the division, win the games you're supposed to win. And I don't know how many people thought they were supposed to win that last night.
Yeah,
could have gone either way, but I think New England was pretty ticked off. They came in here and they were the underdog.
You know, I used to do the Maryland games on radio when I was in Washington, D.C., football games, with Johnny Holiday. Remember Johnny Holiday?
Johnny Holiday. I love Johnny, man.
Johnny, we did the games. We did the games for like 3 years out there in D.C. Maryland Terrapins. Got to love that turtle power.
Love the
Snap the turtles. Can't beat them.
Scott, thank you. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
All right, guys, take care. Send me some of those ribs from Montgomery Inn.
Uh-oh. All right.
Famous. Maybe we'll get a sponsor from Montgomery Inn.
Ooh. Then we can send
ribs on Monday morning at 7 a.m.
He knows about those ribs. That's pretty
Everybody
good.
does, I think.
You know, your partner in crime, Catherine Nero, is in the newsroom right now, and she's trending. She's trending.
Yes.
Right, but she's keeping track of what's trending on Twitter today. Hello, Catherine.
Oh, good morning. I am trending, just not trendy.
What are people talking about there? Because I sense that there are a lot of people that are pulling hamstrings, jumping off the bandwagon today. What's trending out there about the bandwagon?
I'll tell you what, I would not want to be Brandon Tate this morning. There are, Twitter has 10 trending topics each morning, and in Cincinnati, all 10 this morning are Bengals. That's the first time I've seen that on a Monday morning all season and really into last season.
What does it say that happens when they lose and not when they win?
Well, it's also the timing of the game. Let's be fair. It was a night game, so people are online.
Okay, all right.
But Tate, poor Brandon Tate's number 2. And some really terrible ones, but some pretty funny ones, too. There's a picture of a trash can online one fan put up, and it says it's a visual representation of what Brandon Tate and Jermaine Gresham's kid would look like.
Oh, that's cold.
You know, because, of course, Tate returned, like it was like 8 yards deep in the end zone, and he returned 4 times. So, yeah, so there's a lot of hate mail here, hate tweets. for poor Brandon Tate. One says the only thing Brandon Tate should return is his playbook.
Now that's funny.
By the time he got to the coach's office. So yeah, not the most popular there. Also, another one of my favorites is finish this joke. Brandon Tate and J.J. Hoover walk into a bar. Two of the most hated
oh my gosh.
local athletes. But anyway, so yeah, they're trending right now, as are Bengals in general, Gresham, of course, Brady, Dalton, Houday, Burfict, Revis. What's interesting is Good Morning America just had a story. Apparently there was a priest in New England who prayed for Brady to get better. That ain't fair.
Really?
On the man upstairs.
Divine intervention.
That is not fair. As Reva will attest, I say God's got bigger fish to fry than who wins a football game, but apparently not.
We'll take all the divine intervention we can get.
Well, that's not. I mean, back in the 50s, not that I was alive to remember this, but there were when the Dodgers were like.
You read about it in
the
books.
Brooklyn Dodgers. There was a priest that said pray for Gil Hodges because he was like in like this
Oh, yeah,
over
yeah,
40
yeah.
slump. So yeah, so I mean, but I mean, you know, there are those in New England that think Tom Brady's bigger than God anyway.
I know. And in Green Bay, it's called Pews, Packers, and Pancakes. So Mass always is just like about 20 minutes on Sundays in Green Bay. So
he is a 50,000-yard passer now, Brady.
That's right, he is.
Dude, all I'm saying is with Ebola and enterovirus and the like, I think we got bigger fish to fry.
I agree with you on that. I agree with that. It's good to see you again, Catherine.
Hey, I got one more.
Oh, good, good.
Listen, don't stop me now. Don't stop
No,
me.
all right, you go, girl.
Can't stop, won't stop. So yeah, on our Facebook page, we're continuing the conversation, as we like to say. So folks are saying, you know, what happened? What did you think? Some say it's embarrassing. They're calling them the Bungles, the Keystone Cops, you name it. And as you said, this is not primetime's not their friend. So maybe going back to a Sunday afternoon next week will help a bit.
Okay. Well, let's hope. Yeah, Carolina, then Indianapolis. Can I say thank you, Catherine, now?
Yes.
Okay.
You can always say thank you, Mr. Brew.
Thank you, Catherine. A reminder,
Mr.
you can download the WCPO.com app and listen to this in your car. We don't want you watching it in your car because that could be a problem, but you can download the app and listen to it as you commute into work. And then, of course, all of these shows are available on demand on WCPO.com. So, and then it's the hashtag. You heard about these hashtag things they have now? Hashtag the Flying Pigskin Show.
Oh, and that's going, huh?
That's
96,000 tweets just about Tom Brady since the end of last night's game.
Really?
That's what I just read. So 145,000 total about the game.
And that's cold about Brandon Tate.
There's quite a few of nasty grams. That's what Twitter's all about.
But well, unless you get caught, Jermaine Gresham is kind of like he's been MIA for a long time on this. I
so what's your assessment of that?
I think his contract's up after this year, and I don't think they're renewing it. I think Tyler Wright is their guy.
He's so talented. He's one of those guys. He is so talented.
So
and
we're
when
told,
he catches the ball and runs with it, you're like, we should do that 10 times a game. But then he just starts dropping it. He does that all the time.
And drops him in critical situations.
And they're hit him right in the hands.
Yeah.
I mean, they're right there.
He catches that ball last night in the end zone. You don't know which way that game goes at that point. It's still very much in play.
He's had countless plays over the years that are just like that. But he's got so much talent that you can't get rid of him. I mean, because if you could ever get him to catch it and run with it, it would be great.
So we got this poll question going. Who was responsible for last night's loss? Offense, defense, special teams, coaching, the Patriots, or the big stage? And you can vote on that right now on WCPO.com.
Do you ever use the phrase "flat" in a game? I mean, it felt like they were somewhat flat.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could make a case for that. I just think that they got out-coached, they got outplayed, and I think they got outplayed defensively.
I think the last one is the encapsulation of the whole thing. I can't say that word. But the big stage, that's just what they still don't have.
Yeah.
And all people like me, which there are a lot of them, until
there's not
they
a
win
whole lot
those
of people like you, thank God.
How about that? Think about that for a while.
What was concerning to me, too, is the Patriots have like 200 yards of penalties, and we still couldn't get how many?
12 penalties last night for 114
Ooh.
yards. The penalties look like they're just
close to
aggressive,
200,
like, you know.
That's a lot.
Bring it on. They had,
12 penalties?
the Patriots had 12 penalties last night for 114 yards total.
I think, didn't Tennessee have like 99 yards penalties in the game before that? So there's a lot of teams that have to cheat to keep over the Bengals. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, not to mention penalty saved that first turnover.
Right.
From happening.
But I think Matt, I think you're
sides.
right. I just think on this team they're not ready for primetime players. And when the spot, I've said this, I've said it on Channel 9. when the spotlight shines on them, they wilt. The stage gets bigger, and they get smaller.
But each team,
people are saying it's
each
night.
year
it's
is a
not.
different
I mean,
story.
It's
This
kind
is
of
the-
night, but it's big stage. It's when it's a 4:00 game, or you're playing the big team, and as soon as they're good, but as soon as somebody starts looking at them and they have to think about it, it's like when you play golf. You can play golf good when you're at home on your home course, and then when you go somewhere to a tournament or something,
No.
you have to be able to do it when everything is on the line and you know it. When you're in that second half and you know your season's almost over.
I completely disagree with that, Matty. First of all, everything is on the line every Sunday in every football game. When you
it's
play
not.
yes, it is.
It wasn't a-
Absolutely. 5 plays can make a major difference in a game, which is the difference between win or lose. Each year is a different story for each team. So to pile on the history of this organization in the last 10 years onto this current roster
How
is
about
not
just-
accurate.
how about
it's
just
a
all in the
road
last
loss
3
to a
years?
very
But
good
there is
team and a Hall of Fame
constant.
coach.
There is one constant. The constant is Marvin Lewis.
Exactly.
And so yes, the players change and the rosters are fluid, but it's the same guy getting them ready for all these primetime games. And that's why when I was talking to Breach, I asked him, well, is it preparation? Does he psych them out? And I think you got to look at that one constant, and I think it's Lewis in big games. His teams don't perform well, and it may not be the players. It could be the coach.
I just think if this was a home loss, it would be a different story.
I agree.
That's just
It may
my
not
take.
have
They had an opportunity.
And I'm not trying to apologize
win
for
over
them.
people like me. That
But
ugly
there's
group
got to
of
be
people that we
something
wanna
to
talk
it.
about. But if
They've
they
dominated
would've-
every quarter of every game to last night, and then they got
I agree,
dominated in
and
4
most
quarters.
people who are pessimistic like me are going to think just about the one. It's what have you done for me lately? And if they would have won that game last night, they would have sold out next week. I bet now they won't.
Well, it's
and
Carolina.
perhaps that's fair, Matty. In this league, you are what you earn,
Yeah.
and they earned a butt kicking last night. So,
One of the
Speaking of which-
highlights each week is a guy that you're personally familiar with and have staked a lot of your career on.
this is true.
And that's Johnny Bag of Donuts, who we think watched the game last night, but we're not sure. So let's go live to Mrs. Bag of Donuts' basement to bring in our good friend Johnny Bag of Donuts, who apparently is looking for some Fritos. Johnny, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, what's up?
Did you watch the game last night?
Well, I was at work with you, Ken, and I had to do like a lot of work. I had to cut that package about the reporter. I don't know, so I saw a couple of highlights.
About
It
the
was all good.
reporter.
About the reporter. John, I
There
don't
was a
recall
fire or
seeing you at
something.
work last night.
What's that?
I don't recall seeing you at work last
He
night.
doesn't put on his TV makeup at work like he does in the mornings for this show, Ken. That's probably what it is. He just has a different appearance when he's not, ready for the big show.
You appear like you
Right.
stuck your finger in a light socket this morning, Johnny. Is there something you want to tell us?
No, it's just I woke up, it's early. I don't know why you guys do it this early every single week. It doesn't make any sense.
But we're glad to have you with us. John, your overall impressions of the Bengals from last night, can we have?
Well, I was listening in to you guys, and there's a lot of negativity going around the room, and I feel like it might be good for us to kind of just go through the room and each one of us say something that makes us happy.
Okay. Let's begin with Chris. Chris, can you say something that makes you happy?
Whatever it is on his shirt, that
Yeah,
T-shirt.
tilt down, BOD. There you go.
There it is. His horses.
Wow.
Oh.
on a second.
Are you a brony?
Do that again, BOD. We didn't get a
Look,
good
he's
look.
laughing
We had a
'cause he knows
graphic
what
up.
it is, so therefore-
Oh, you're a brony. That's a My
No.
Little Pony shirt.
That is not a My Little
You
Pony.
are a brony.
Absolutely not.
Okay, we'll have to have another show where we explain whatever it is you're talking about, Ken. I don't understand.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
bronies are grown men that like My Little Ponies. Catherine explained it last week.
Oh,
No,
okay.
this is
I
not
wasn't
My
paying
Little
attention.
Pony. I'm a grown man that likes horses, okay?
Whatever it is you define, that's
Right.
there, Brony.
Okay,
Well,
come on, Ken. What makes you happy?
What makes me happy is a fine Courvoisier, a good cigar, and reruns of My Three Sons. That's why you asked me
that's
what
his
makes me
honest
happy.
horse
Okay,
T-shirt.
see, you open that can of worms, BOD. I mean, this is what you get, okay? Should we continue to go around
Yes,
the room?
Matt,
I
what
wanna hear
makes
it,
you
Matt.
happy, Matt?
What would make me happy?
No, what
is-
makes you happy?
What makes me happy is thinking back to when the Bengals could win a playoff game. Thinking back to 1988, when they were winning playoff games, and it was fun. You thought that they could win in the clutch. That's what. Thinking about this
That's
morning.
generations
Right.
ago.
Right, and there's not a horse alive that
right.
was born in 1988 that remembers that.
POD wasn't
All
here for
those
that.
horses are dead.
He doesn't know what that means.
Mullets make me happy. They just make me smile.
Yeah.
A good mullet, you know.
Brian, what makes you happy?
Brian?
Me?
Yeah,
Yeah, you. Yeah, that's
You're
who-
Brian.
You're Brian.
Sleeping in?
Not broken collarbone.
Tom, what
That's
makes you
right.
happy, Brian? Brian, Tom, what makes you happy? Does Brian make you happy?
What makes me happy?
Yeah.
My wife's cooking.
Yeah. There you go. There you go.
Is she
Somebody
watching?
just
She's
got
watching.
wins.
Isn't she?
I
She's
don't know if
watching.
She's watching that.
But she can watch it online. It's available on WCPO.com, but she'll have to wait deep into the show, so that might be hard, hard for her to get there.
Johnny, did you go to sleep last night and we woke you up, or were you just like up all
I
night?
was like 3 minutes ago I was asleep, so yeah, and I'm gonna go back to sleep, no doubt about it.
Is there any way to pan the camera around so we can see what Mom's basement looks like?
There's no way to do it. His wrist does not bend in that direction.
Oh well.
I'm not getting paid about that, guys.
Well, good. Well, I just thought maybe we could have like a panoramic view of the facility.
I'm gonna have to prep next time.
You
You
gotta-
gotta give me a heads
Oh,
up.
you mean you haven't? We didn't get your full, the full Monty here. This is just you, not getting ready.
No, I'm still waiting for that paycheck. It just hasn't
Yeah.
come in the mail yet.
Yeah, you keep
Well,
waiting.
yeah.
Johnny, with the win last night by New England, are they off the mat? And more important, are the Bengals in trouble after the loss last night? Because I think your opinion carries much weight on these subjects.
Guys, come on. It's a bunch of negative Nancy's. The Bengals are going to come back. This was a little hiccup. Come on. Everybody's jumping off the wagon. I just got on, so I'm going to stay on for a little bit.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
you would ride one of those My Little Ponies on his shirts. He's
Yeah.
riding the wagon.
Yeah, were you a
Not
pony?
my little pony. Those are legit horses, guys.
What?
Those are legit horses. Those
Why are
not
you
my
wearing a
little ponies.
T-shirt with horses on it? Is that the only thing that was clean?
You got any
What makes you think that's clean?
You got any wolves howling at the moon type shirts?
It is kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just horses.
Yeah.
It's just majestic,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot to say what makes me happy. Cheese conies.
Yes.
They make everybody happy.
At this
Mustard,
hour of the day,
no
too.
onions.
Johnny, it's good to see you again. We didn't mean to interrupt anything.
Well, it's all right. But yeah, work on getting that time moved up, guys.
Okay. You tell Mom we said hi, okay?
Yeah, I will. She loves this show. Probably your #1 fan of the Flying Pigskin.
That right?
There's one.
He looks a little bit like Jim Caviezel, doesn't he? Jim Caviezel. The actor?
No, help me out.
You don't know who he is?
No.
He played
What
in the
team did
mo-
he play for?
No, Jim Caviezel, the actor. What movies was Jim? He played Christ in a movie.
Right.
What was the name of that movie?
Was he?
Was he the dude?
Passion?
Was he the Bobby Jones guy?
The Passion.
Passion. He played.
So he was the guy that played the Bobby Jones, right?
Who?
You play Jesus Christ, right?
The Legend of
Bobby
Bobby
Jones,
Jones.
the
Legend
golfer?
of Bagger Jones. No, Legend
Bagger
of Bagger
Vance.
Vance.
Bagger Van.
No. He played in the Bobby Jones movie.
But Jim, you do have that kind of look going on. I mentioned that the first time we had you on, and I think you ought to run with that because you might get out of Mom's basement that way.
Well, I gotta say the fans were pretty ticked off last week when I didn't get the phone call,
Yeah.
and I was
The
laying by my bed.
fans.
Good. We'll make sure
do
we
they-
call every
do
week
they
now,
live with
John.
you?
So
What
for the
fan?
record, it's Bobby Jones' stroke of genius. It proves I can get anything back around the
And
sports.
Jim Caviezel was in that.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, right
There you
there. There it is.
Johnny Bag of Donuts, thanks for joining us this morning.
Anytime, guys. I'll be here.
I know you will.
Yeah. If
We're
he's not
pretty
here,
certain
he's
of that.
there.
And counting on it.
Should we go over last week's poll, Matt?
I don't know. We have some comments on what is this on?
Facebook.
Really?
Facebook. Yes.
Go
we do.
for it.
Yes. Take camera one. Beth says it was one game. We lost to them like they had the week before.
Good.
In fact, half the people singing Brady's praises right now were calling for his retirement last week.
Right.
For whatever reason, national TV games rattle the Bengals' cage.
I like
Got to get over that.
Beth, good comment there, Beth.
Yeah.
I like Beth.
Lisa King. We took a lose. I don't know.
We took a
loss.
Well, we took
I'm,
a what?
I'm trying to interpret her
Oh.
grammar. Can you take this right here?
I
Take
thought
the
you said she took a lewd.
Yeah, it happens. Patriots are dirty players. Over 100 yards and penalties for over 100 penalties for 2014.
That's not
That
good.
tells you something.
Yeah.
I will say the owner made up for the loss for making a donation
Yes.
to Children's Hospital.
Yes.
Leah Strong. That's a class act.
Absolutely.
Yes.
By the way, hashtag Flying Pigskin Show, the Flying Pigskin Show, if you want to weigh in on Twitter. And our Facebook page is WCPO, what are we, WCPO/Facebook, right?
How about David there, Marvin Ball? Which is Marvin Jones back next week?
He was supposed to be back this week. He should be. He was going full tilt in practice. See, but Marvin Ball, okay, that's what I'm saying, Chris. If there's one constant in these primetime fiascos, it's Marvin Lewis. Now, I'm not saying the guy is this Bengali
take
guy
that
that
argument farther, though, Ken, and say one constant over the, what has he been now, a dozen years?
Yeah.
Is Marvin, and no playoff wins.
Yeah.
That's why I don't understand why Matty doesn't go, Marvin Lewis hasn't won in the playoffs. Like, you do it to Andy Dalton.
Right.
Marvin has even a longer track record of that.
Tom's got some insight.
Marvin's 0-5 here in primetime games since his arrival. So
No, well, they won on a Monday night because I was here covering it for the Broncos.
Primetime.
Sunday night
Sunday,
games? Because I was here for that Monday night game against the Broncos several years back that they just throttled Denver. That was that was another week of when I was in Denver covering the Broncos where the sky's falling. This team's horrible.
But it's amazing. I think overall they've won 10 primetime games in franchise history. And I'm not saying, and again, you're right. History is overrated. Rosters are fluid. They change. But you got to look at constants. And I think recently it's Marvin.
And Matty, to go back, that has to be in the 80s, right? Because they didn't play any in the 90s. And in the 80s, it always seemed like it was either Houston, Cleveland, or Pittsburgh on Monday night.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So, and those were epic battles.
When I did the games on radio, I did a Sunday night game in San Francisco, and they were playing. They were playing obviously the 49ers, and they called for a fake punt, and Lee Johnson is back there, and then at the last minute, the coach calls it off. The special teams coach calls it off because it was the wrong formation defensively, and everybody got the message except
Lee
Johnson, who proceeds to run where he was supposed to run and just gets tackled by like a half dozen guys. They had extra players on the field.
We do have. I didn't respond to your earlier request. We do have the results of last week's poll.
Good.
The graphic.
Good.
Yeah. Which part of the Bengals game is the best? 0 on offense percent.
Wow.
That seems a little bit
Was there
amazing.
7 votes?
Yeah. I don't know.
I wonder how many will vote for the defense after last night.
Right.
Yeah. That's correct. This was before last night's game. It doesn't matter as long as they're winning is a small thing. But yeah, that just shows you that the Bengals fans don't believe in Andy Dalton. They don't believe in the offense, and if they wouldn't believe in him in New England if they hadn't won Super Bowls.
Dalton's QB rating was close to 120, I think, last night.
Yeah,
it was higher than Brady's, actually, I
It was
believe.
higher than Brady?
And if they would have caught some passes, it would
Tom,
have
help
even
me
been
out.
higher.
Back me up on that, Tom. But I believe it was higher than Brady's.
It was.
Here, hold on.
Although
see here.
the only QB rating that matters is the
Dalton's was 117.4 and Brady's was 110.7. So by about 7 points. Just a
Third down
fraction higher.
efficiency, total net yards, number of plays, time of possession. That's all you need to know. I mean, again, stats don't always tell the stories, but these do. You give up 508 yards, 505 yards to anybody. It's like UC. They gave up 1,320 yards in their last 2 games. You're not going to win. You can't win giving up 500 total yards. They gave up 423 to Baltimore, and they won. That's an anomaly. You're not going to be able to do that.
Eventually, a defense just runs out of yardage to give. You're right. It ends in the end zone.
Also, and the fact
43
that
points worth yesterday.
Also, and the fact that Bengals had only 1 turnover of the first 3 games. They dropped the ball 3 times last night.
Yeah.
So that didn't help turnovers.
Yeah.
I think Tom brought it strong today, don't you? We don't
Absolutely.
need PJ back
Great
here.
job, Tom.
Yeah.
I think Tom needs to be
all
here
right,
every day.
Well, now you're getting personal, and people's feelings might get hurt.
Can I just
but,
say
okay.
my wife and kids make me happy too? Before, Mullis was probably a bad answer. I just want to clear
Did you just
that
get a
up.
text?
Well, no, Tom showed him up.
she watched
Okay,
it,
yeah.
so-
He's got little girls,
Yeah,
and
thanks.
they're gonna watch, and they're gonna go look at him and go, "What's a mullet, Daddy?"
Tom, my kids and my wife make me happy.
There you
Just
go.
clarifying.
Yeah, there you go.
I thought we had a good show today. What do you think?
Strong effort.
Thought it was a strong effort today. And in the wake of a loss, to have a strong effort, that's big.
So coming up next.
Next week, Carolina. They'll beat
right.
the Panthers. Panthers looked horrible yesterday. Although it was a crazy play. You see the crazy play of that game? Philly Brown goes
on
back.
to Carolina.
Yeah, Philly
On to
Brown,
Carolina.
Carolina goes back, fields a punt, gets What was that?
that was an eclipse. That was an eclipse.
You been on TV before?
Yeah, we were going around the horn, and Greg wanted to be a part of that.
He must work out. He must work out.
Yes.
Anyway, crazy play. Billy Brown gets interfered with, picks the ball up, runs
right
on a penalty for a touchdown. Carolina's terrible. Newton's inconsistent. They beat that. The next real test is 2 weeks in Indianapolis, and that will be their comeback game from last night.
True. With that said, though, home cooking next week, probably good to heal the woes.
Thank you to everybody involved in this show. There's our cast of characters, and especially thank you to Furniture Fair for the style and flair they bring here with this great set that we have here on WCPO.com. Again, remember, this is on demand, as are all of these shows on WCPO.com. The audio podcast is available on WCPO.com and iTunes. That's that new thing they got. You ever see that apple with a bite out of it?
Absolutely.
That's that iTunes thing.
App. I'm going to do that now.
And download the app so when you go to work next Monday, you can listen to us on your car going in, because that's big too.
Awesome.
You don't need just all you need is that app. That app will actually do a lot of things. It'll get you money. It'll get you out of jail.
It'll win playoff games.
It'll win playoff games too. It'll prevent Mike McCoy from finishing this sentence.
That's
Andy
right.
Dalton.
That's right. And for all the big real McCoy fans, Mike McCoy is on vacation. We have not cut him from the roster.
2 weeks at the track.
That's right.
2 weeks at camp.
Thank God for that.
All right. So have a great week. We're back here next Monday at 7 a.m. on WCPO.com on the reason why the internet was invented. It's the Flying Pigskin Show.